have the Rings of Power, and this article says the finale finally gave us what we needed to know about the Stranger. We didn't need to know anything about the Stranger because this show sucks.
Well, I didn't know that this quote was from Gandalf.
Yes.
If in doubt, always follow your nose.
Here's
so
the thing.
They are essentially saying that the Stranger is Gandalf.
And here's the thing.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
Yes.
If any of you care, I'm sure you don't.
Okay. Here's the thing. This is exactly a microcosm of everything that is wrong in Hollywood. Even if you heard that quote at the end about following your nose, it's delivered in a way that's supposed to let people know that it's a callback to something else. It doesn't fit. It's not well placed. It's just, hey, don't you remember?
Yeah, when I didn't understand the context,
but you knew, right?
But I thought it was bizarre.
No, see, the thing. If you, this is what your brain should be telling you in that situation. Weird, out of place comment. It's a member berry. Like if it's like that's like if it's shoehorned in there, it's a member.
I could tell that it was like.
Yeah.
Meant for an audience that I wasn't a part of.
He might as well have turned to the camera and gone.
But that's like
wink, wink.
That's why I didn't understand at any point like where they were going with the marketing for this show. Were they looking to introduce Lord of the Rings as a franchise to a lot of new people who had never been exposed to it before? Or were they looking to get returning fans from the films and the books? But they wanted to have their cake and eat it too by like changing the lore in all of the ways that the existing fans couldn't stand, but also like getting all of the hype of being that familiar IP.
I want to point out that we not only got Gandalf without being called Gandalf. So now his first interaction with the Hobbit, it's not with Bilbo. It's now with Nori. But
she's a Harfoot. She's not a Hobbit.
So now we get the reveal for Halbrand. Okay, this was actually, I will give them
Should we just say it?
We're gonna do
Halbrand is Sauron.
Okay. The reveal here was actually classically telegraphed and done in a way I would have expected of old school cinema, meaning all of a sudden in episode 8, he's randomly suspicious looking all the time leading up to the forging of the rings. Also, I want to point out that they just didn't have to make the damn rings after he left. He also disappears.
I looked into like what the actual lore was, and it was the existing lore was that Sauron disguised himself as an elf named Anatar, I think, around Celebrimbor to manipulate him into forging the rings.
Yeah.
He was not disguised as a mortal man named Halbrand. So they are effectively changing the lore, to my knowledge. Correct me if you know differently.
I'm also going to point. I'm also going to point to some of the. I'm going to have the chat help us with this one. So Nathan Simpson says they broke the lore to make the villains, the Nazgul, female. Do they hate women? Yeah, like they gender swap them for no reason.
It's weird that the ascetic and the nomad were made to look sort of androgynous or like gender ambiguous as a way to make them disturbing looking as villains. Yeah. Like you are tacitly admitting that disturbs people to show a woman with like a masculine face.
It was really
and like short hair, but with a woman's body.
The Sadok Burrows death meant literally nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Well, it was weird because then like I thought Marigold was gonna die too when was it the ascetic or the nomad that was blowing the fire at them?
I don't know. I think which one it was. I think Mr. H Reviews called him the real Slim Shady.
The real Slim Shady.
Yes.
Was blowing fire at Marigold, and I thought, okay, she's gonna be burnt to a crisp.
Yeah.
And then like a minute later, she's shown completely unscathed.
Yeah.
And then they're about to all get killed when the stranger saves them. And the line that was like, I'm good, I couldn't bear to watch it anymore. It was just like so on the nose.
I don't even want to do a full review of it because it's like it ended with such a thud to me,
or a whimper.
A whimper.
You called it.
The reveal. I back in earlier videos, I remember Critical Drinker did a video where he goes, Galadriel and totally not Sauron. So everyone knew that was going to be so. It's what I said earlier. I said you're not allowed to be a competent male unless you are evil.
Unless you have ulterior motives.
Or you're evil. So just the fact that Halbrand was portrayed as manly, masculinely competent meant that he was either evil, gay, or that's
well, yeah, before I had a clue that he was Sauron, and he saved Galadriel's life on the raft, I thought, hey, look, this is debunking Brett's theory that Galadriel is supremely competent and a girl boss, and that, men are trampled upon in this series. But I guess you ultimately are right, that there has to be some evil ulterior motive at play because in order for men to help women.
Because men are bad. And I will say that I posted exactly one thing from this last night. Like as the episode started, I go, as bad as this show is it's at its absolute worst when Galadriel is riding a horse in slow motion. And the first thing they show you is Galadriel on a horse in slow motion. They have learned nothing.
Yeah.
And I will say her best work in this episode was her interactions with Halbrand and Finrod in the post in the flash, or I'm sorry, in the dream sequence.
Yes, I thought so too.
And that was the best we got from her.
That was the most facial expression I ever saw from that actress in this series.
I was like, if you could have given us half of that during the show, I might have given a single crap what happened to you at all.
Yeah. Even in that scene in this episode where Halbrand touches her shoulder and is like, I won't let anyone else forget it.
Yeah.
That you helped me. She was still just standing there with the posture of a plank, with the facial expression just completely stony as always.
I can't figure out what the
and I was trying to sell myself on their chemistry, and that would have made the reveal that he was Sauron so much more powerful. If they ever fomented that chemistry or relationship or vulnerability between them.
Yeah.
But really, her trust was not broken because they barely knew each other by that point.
Also, I want to point out that she goes on absolutely, if there is such thing as a negative hero's journey, this is what she went on. And this, she
learned absolutely nothing. She learned negative lessons.
She made the rings anyways.
Right? Knowing that Halbrand manipulated Celebrimbor into doing that. Still was smiling evilly at the forging of the rings. And then Elrond walks in after finding out that he lied to her and is like,
okay,
what the heck?
Make him anyways.
And then
holding the scroll that she looks at, and then they just decide to not say anything about it.
I wonder, I looked at comments about the second season coming up from, people involved in the project.
And you said there has to be 5 seasons?
Yeah, so in the deal to get rights with the estate said they have to make at least 5 seasons of this series.
So why the hell didn't they start on season 2 already?
They just started filming in London last week for the second season.
Because they moved it from New Zealand to London.
You should have been already almost finished filming season 2 by now if you already knew that 5 seasons were guaranteed.
It is possible that if the show was so bad that they just wanted to scrap it, they could pay some type of legal fine to get out of making it, maybe. And they're like, maybe we'll wait and see.
But you don't plan on that.
No. So this is one of those shows where it's and I really do agree that this show, a bad show, can survive a lot longer with a really charismatic lead and a good supporting cast. And I would argue that Halbrand was the best you got, along with the guy who played what was his name? Elendil was the best you got as far as acting in this show. And kind of pitching your pitching your horse to Galadriel, who's just bad.
Also, blind Muriel kind of kicked up her feet in this episode too.
And they're like, Durin? Who the frick is Durin? We're not going to see Durin at all in this episode.
Yeah, he was gone.
They're just gone. Like, it's like, I guess they don't matter.
Even though they were the ones that found the Mithril.
Here's the other thing. This is such an easy fix for them, given how much freaking talking is done on this show. If you had actually made the creation of the rings, like trying to figure out the Mithril, a thing throughout the whole episode, where they got it from like episode 2, and then they were working on making this work all the way up to this episode, it wouldn't make all the people look so freaking incompetent.
I don't understand, like, because I'm not like familiar with the lore, I don't understand what the forging of the rings has to do with the survival of the elven race.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't really sufficiently make that clear.
To be fair,
why Galadriel thought it was worth it to go through with that after knowing that Halbrand had ulterior motives in encouraging.
Yeah, and as normies, we're the people you're supposed to be explaining this to. Like I said, the reason this show fails on all levels, guys, is because we are literally your target audience. We are the people who are we're literally being chained to watch it because like, you want to convince the people that don't care enough about it to turn it off, but are like, oh, look, Lord of the Rings. I remember Lord of the Rings. That was very popular when I was a kid. Like, me, who's seen the movies once. Mary's seen the movies. Did you read the books?
Yeah.
So like, it's not the Tolkien superfans that you're clearly marketing to. It's us. If you can't win us over, you're effed from the beginning, and you did not do that. You did not succeed.
Yeah, I think it's clearly not about like winning people over at this point. It's about getting people to casually turn on the show and not feel negative feelings toward it, at the very least. And that's like the bare minimum that they're going for.
I want to find out that Jeff Bezos has like a way of knowing who's bought stuff while watching Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And then what they've bought.
Like, trying to make something good requires a lot more risk taking than making something serviceable and inoffensive generally. Yeah. So for shareholders, I guess this is a lot better than it could have turned out.
Here's a comment from Average Panda. Says, I greatly fear that normies will think that the Rings of Power is actually accurate to the book's films. My hope is that that's not true. That like there's been enough pushback that people know that this is not accurate to the films and the books. Like, they
didn't show the forging of the other rings, than just the 3 for the elves.
Also, the rings look like costume jewelry.
Why were they so gaudy?
They're so ugly.
I thought that they were just going to be plain
gold rings.
I know. Why do they
ugly? Because this show is done by incompetent weirdos. And I want to point out that for this show to fail, like to fail this badly, some of the CGI in this episode was really bad. There was really, and for most of the show, I didn't notice it.
In the altercation between the stranger and the ascetic and the nomad,
and anything on the boat, this episode was really, really bad. I mean, $1 billion
when their skeletons were exposed in that one part.
So bad.
Yeah, and then all of there was one scene where like it was in the darkness and all of those embers were falling.
Yeah,
that I thought was cool looking.
But
the rest of it was just so cornball.
And like I said, they could have just better actors, dude.
By the way, I don't know if you stayed this long, but the post or the credits song that was sung
awful.
by Fiona Apple.
Of all the people, might as well.
It was it was awful.
It just the whole thing was, and then you get, and here's the thing. Like, I thought that Halbrand, as kind of like a vaguely nefarious dude, was actually okay. Him as like evil Sauron, far less frightening. like when he's an unknown entity, it kind of works. When he's supposed to be
when you don't know his history.
Yeah. Like, now you're just like, bleh. Now you just look like generic British dude number 5 with your 90s hair and like you're about to go to a Backstreet Boys concert. I guess it would be Oasis, right? Because he was in Britain. So
He looks like he would sit down at an Oasis concert.
he's like,
He would stay seated the whole time.
I love Noel Gallagher. I love him so very much. It was really bad, guys. And like I said, I would like to believe that we gave this show more of a shot than a lot of people who were going to watch this and who knew for all the right reasons that they were going to hate it from the beginning because they love the lore. But they failed so badly.
I mean, didn't you think that the scene where Nori was saying goodbye to her family and her friends was so drawn out, unnecessarily
it was like 15
drawn
minutes
out.
longer than it needed to be.
I think it was like they were trying to drag out the length of the episode in post and didn't have as many minutes as they were planning on having.
In the whole, I still think that Nori is one of the better characters.
She was, yeah.
But in this episode, I still like it's like her and what's her name, Poppy.
Yeah.
I just
The conversation
throw
where it was
me like
you were such a good friend, and
they're gonna be be gay next season.
I
guarantee.
I
it.
really hope not.
I guarantee
because they're almost like siblings in the show. Like they're basically like siblings.
Well, it's not going to matter because it's Hollywood. They don't care.
Yikes!
That's what's going to happen. And it just the whole thing was just.
We didn't see Bronwyn or Aaron.
Oh my God, you're right. Now I'm really offended.
You forgot.
No, Bronwyn.
The fact that you forgot is so telling.
Like the one lady who I just fake stan this whole time because I think the actress is kind of smoking hot, but that's that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
No Bronwyn, no Arondir, thank God. no Theo, no Durin, no Disa.
Yep.
None of it. And arguably Durin and Disa were like two of the better characters in the show.
Durin was pretty good.
Even though Disa was real annoying in that last episode. Let's move on. And when season 2 comes out,
let us know if you guys want a review of season 2. I might not be able to make it through that.
Do you guys? I in the chat. Do you want season 2 to be reviewed? Because I'd like to think that we're not hate watchers, like that we've given the episodes a fair shake and pointed out the stuff that we like. But we can do a season 2 review. We're here for you guys.
Hobbit said again, reimagined, destroy the ideals that offend you, stick in your own, and corrupt the whole. This show is a butchery of Tolkien's work that then was used as a public toilet. I can only hope it fades into history as a fail.
Well, we got 4 more seasons before it fails into history, unfortunately. Average Panda says, I highly doubt there will even be a season 2. They're already in production for season 2. And I think that there's enough hubris and money there for them to refuse to admit that it's going to be a one-season failure.
They do not have the option to not make a season 2. As I said, like in order to get rights from the estate, which cost them $250 million, by the way. Non-negligible amount, I would call that.
Yes.
They have to make a minimum of 5 seasons in the series before renegotiating. So you are going to get more Rings of Power, whether you like it or not. And that's why Amazon was saying, even if it fails, it's a success.
Because we will literally make it so.
Yes.
We will literally make it so.
You're going to rewrite history. So
help me.
There's the Rings of Power season finale.
You know what we should do? We should do a She-Hulk Rings of Power crossover.
Please no.
Let's do a She-Hulk.
I would still hate watch it.
She-Hulk comes in and beats up Sauron because whammon, and because he's afraid of strong, independent women that are lawyers.
It was weird that they were like making it this big build up to finding out that the stranger is of the Maiar, because there were people saying he was of the Maiar from the very first episode. There were people saying that they thought he was Sauron from the very first episode.
Like I said, a lot of people really figured that it would end up being
Gandalf.
Yeah.
It's so cheap to add that at the end.
And I keep going back to it too, but every time I think of these actors, and then you think of a character like Sauron, or you think of a character like Gandalf, and then or Galadriel, and then you get these actors that are just bleh. They're just average. They're just average to below average. And I'm not trying to be rude to them in any way. I'm not saying that they're not talented. I'm saying that they're not up to the task of what this franchise should have entailed.
But there was not one familiar face in the entire series.
No.
And that was on purpose.
So,
Despite the fact that they had such a huge budget.
and we all know that those actors would have come back, I'm sure. Maybe. Maybe
Well,
not.
I feel like more so if this is your breakout role, you are willing to come back season after season, even if it's a train wreck.
Yep. All right. Now that we are, do you feel lighter? Do you feel better? Like,
No,
like,
but
I now guess what, guys?
I'm
This
glad
means
I don't
that-
have to watch it anymore.
This means that I now get to. I don't have to live in fear of Thursday nights.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Like, I no longer have to be like, oh my god,
You know,
it's Thursday.
we shouldn't have guests on more often.
Yes.
Ian should get sick more often. Just kidding.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.